Imagine standing at the threshold of eternity, holding the greatest news in the history of the universe, and being met with cold, hard silence. Most Catholics believe the apostles were heroes of instant faith, but the Gospel of Mark reveals a hidden, terrifying truth. The very men who walked with God refused to believe him. Why did Jesus choose a woman once possessed by 7 demons to rebuke the future princes of his church? There is a mystery hidden in their hardness of heart that explains why your own prayers might feel unanswered today. We often think of the resurrection as a moment of pure joy, but Mark 16 verses 9 to 15 paints a different picture. A picture of trauma, psychological barriers, and a spiritual fog that nearly extinguished the light of the gospel before it even spread. But what the church has whispered for centuries about this specific failure changes everything. When Jesus had risen, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, out of whom he had driven 7 demons. Stop and reflect on that. He didn't go to Peter, the rock. He didn't go to John, the beloved. He went to the woman who knew the darkness of hell intimately. In Catholic tradition, those 7 demons represent the totality of spiritual bondage, whether they were literal entities or a metaphor for a life shattered by sin. Mary knew what it was like to be a prisoner of the enemy. The mystery here is one of spiritual sensitivity. Because Mary had been rescued from the depths, her soul was finally tuned to the voice of her deliverer. The apostles, in their grief, had become insulated by their own expectations. They expected a political king. They got a crucified God. Mary simply expected the one who loved her. Most Catholics do not realize that your past demons might be the very thing that makes you the most qualified witness for Christ. But what happened when she spoke to the apostles reveals a darker truth. She went and told his companions who were mourning and weeping. The upper room was not a place of prayer. It was a morgue for dead hopes. The apostles were mourning and weeping. This is human, but it is also a trap. St. John of the Cross speaks of the dark night. But the apostles were experiencing a dark night of their own making. They were so attached to their sorrow that they made a god out of their grief. When Mary arrived, she wasn't just bringing news. She was bringing a disruption to their comfortable despair. Have you ever been in a place where you wanted to stay sad, where hope felt like an insult? The apostles heard her, and the text says, they did not believe. This refusal to believe wasn't a lack of evidence. It was a spiritual infection that the church has warned about for centuries. After this, he appeared in another form to 2 of them walking along on their way to the country. This refers to the road to Emmaus, but Mark uses a specific phrase. In another form, this is the mystery of the resurrected body, the corpus gloriosum. It was Jesus, but he was transformed. Catholic doctrine teaches that the resurrected body possesses 4 qualities: impassibility, brightness, agility, and subtlety. He was subtle. He could pass through walls and hide his identity. He appeared as a stranger to test their hearts. He walks with us in the other forms of our lives. The beggar, the difficult neighbor, the unexpected trial. The 2 disciples return and tell the others, and once again, they did not believe them either. What this means for your soul may surprise you. If you cannot see him in the form of the poor or the suffering, you will never see him in the form of the glory. But later, as the 11 were at table, he appeared to them and rebuked them for their unbelief and hardness of heart. This is the turning point. The Greek word is Sklerokardia. It is a medical term for a heart that has turned to stone. Why did Jesus rebuke them so harshly? Because they had rejected the mediated witness. God rarely speaks to us in a thunderclap. He speaks through Mary Magdalene. He speaks through the travelers. He speaks through the church. By rejecting the witnesses, the apostles were setting themselves up as the only judges of truth. They were saying, if I don't see it my way, it isn't true. Most Catholics do not realize that hardness of heart is the fog that keeps us from the Eucharist. But what Jesus does next is the most shocking part of the gospel. Why did Jesus wait until they were at table? In Catholic theology, the table is the precursor to the altar. He appears in the context of a meal to show that faith is nourished by communion. Even in his rebuke, there is mercy. He didn't abandon them. He showed up. He pierced through the locked doors of their fear. If you feel like your heart has become hard, if you feel like you failed the test of faith, Look at the 11. They failed 3 times. Mary told them no. The travelers told them no. Yet he still came. The church has taught for generations that God's mercy is more stubborn than our unbelief. But there is a price to pay for this second chance. He said to them, "Go into the whole world and proclaim the gospel to every creature." This is the Great Commission. But look at the timing. He doesn't wait for them to become perfect. He commissions them while they are still reeling from his rebuke. This is the Catholic Foglight moment. The realization that God uses broken instruments to play perfect music to every creature. This is a cosmic command. The gospel isn't just for humans. It is a restoration of the whole created order. Every flower, every mountain, every soul is under the dominion of the risen King. What this means for your daily life is profound. You are not sent because you are holy. You are sent so that you and the world might become holy. We must ask, why is it so hard to believe? St. Thomas Aquinas teaches that faith is an act of the intellect, prompted by the will. The apostles was paralyzed by fear. The 7 demons that Mary left behind were now circling the upper room, trying to keep the apostles in the dark. Unbelief is a weapon of the enemy. If he can keep you mourning and weeping, he can keep you from going and proclaiming. Every time you choose to pray when you feel nothing, you are breaking the hardness of heart that Jesus rebuked. You are clearing the fog. This hidden mystery of spiritual combat is something many modern Catholics have forgotten, but the Desert Fathers knew it well. As we approach the end of this meditation, see the table in the upper room. It is the bridge between the Last Supper and the Mass. When Jesus appears and reestablishes their faith, he is restoring the priesthood. He is showing them that their authority comes not from their own strength, but from their witness to his resurrection. The emotional intensity of this moment is staggering. The men who ran away in Gethsemane, the men who sat in stubborn silence while Mary pleaded with them, they are now looking into the eyes of the God they doubted. It is a moment of total vulnerability and total healing. What happens to a soul that is completely seen by God and still loved changes the course of history. We began with a woman of 7 demons and men of stone hearts. We end with a mission to the ends of the earth. Mark 16 verses 9 to 15 is a mirror. Which character are you today? Are you Mary, holding on to a truth that no one believes? Are you the traveler, seeing him in another form, but struggling to convince your family? Or are you at the table, feeling the sting of the Lord's rebuke because you've let your heart grow hard? Do not fear the rebuke. The rebuke is a sign of his intimacy. He only corrects those he intends to send. We are a spiritual family here at Catholic Foglight. We are here to keep the light burning when the world, and even our own hearts, get dark. If this message touched your soul, please comment your prayer intentions below. Let us pray for the Sklerokardia of the world to be healed. If this message touched your soul, subscribe to Catholic Foglight, because the next message may be exactly what heaven wants you to hear.